Live everywhere.
Daily Co's Radio on netrootsradio.com presents
David Waldman. Kagro in the Morning Show. Now, here's David Waldman.
Already? Okay. Well, all right. Let's start the show then. Okay. Hey, how's it going, everybody? Yeah, I've been struggling with the mute button for the last couple seconds, trying to multitask and read a few things at the in the last few seconds before the show, and I don't have an eyeball on the mute button light, the little red LED. So I'm pressing, and saying, hello. Is anyone out there? Well, I'm here anyway, and it's 9:01, and we're a little bit late on June 7th, 2018. Ready to start another show? I clearly am not. But what's the difference? Who cares? LOL, YOLO, nothing matters, right? Why not? The president's too dumb for his job. No reason why I should be smart enough for my own, I say. It's just a waste of effort. Daily Co's Radio is live now, and as a matter of fact, why make the effort when Bill in Portland, Maine will start the show for us? I can always rely on Bill if I don't know what to do. Daily Co's Radio is live now, as he tells you, all the way from Portland, Maine. Kagro X, that's me, follows Trump's lead and spends 2 blissfully cathartic hours blaming every goddamn thing on Canada, including those stupid Google glasses. Yeah, why not? We might as well. I think that was, well, South Park really started us off on the path to blaming everything on Canada, and I guess we ought to just pick up the baton and march with it. Why not? The president is, I don't know if he's rage tweeting, he's just derp tweeting, I guess, this morning. Oh, look, he put another picture of himself up on his profile that then puts his giant face avatar on top of himself. He's using a photo of the fake celebration of America that was really not for the Philadelphia Eagles and never was on his Twitter page. So I guess he's not embarrassed by that at all. But no one really thought Donald Trump was going to be embarrassed by anything. Let's see. Oh, he's just got a new one up. 4 minutes ago, he informed us, Alan Dershowitz, Harvard law professor, says, I guess he's watching television, and he's transcribing the TV. It all proves that we never needed a special counsel, which he misspelled again, and I think it's now a running joke with him. All of this could have been done by the Justice Department. Don't need a multi-million-dollar group of people with a target on someone's back. Not the way justice should operate. So true, he says at the end. By the way, an hour ago he managed this deep thought. Good luck to Alice Johnson. Have a wonderful life. That is it for the moment about Alice Johnson. This is, by the way, and it's in the news, and we had it ready for rolling out this morning. We might as well go over to Pocket and pull the story. Alice Johnson, as it turns out, is the, I guess now, cause célèbre with which Kim Kardashian arrived in her portfolio at the White House the other day. Recall that it's been about a week or two since Kim Kardashian showed up at the White House to lobby for prison reform, which, among things that can be lobbied for, is a pretty good one. And yes, she's, well, I mean, I was going to say, yeah, she's a celebrity lobbying the president. Well, first of all, I was going to say, yeah, but so what? I mean, celebrities lobby the president, not all the time, but with fair frequency. And that's not anything disturbing, I don't think. I don't know where Kim Kardashian got, the idea that ought to be in her portfolio, but why not? I don't know. Maybe she read a newspaper story and said, that makes me think. Okay, well, good. That would be true. That's a perfectly fine way of landing on it. I paused for a second because I still am not 100% clear on Kim Kardashian and what she did to become famous. And I keep reading that, I guess, her first, breakthrough in fame was her maybe not leaked. And this makes her a good match for Donald Trump, the sex tape. But, I mean, so, is that just an amateur homemade porn movie if she's not famous first? And she doesn't, I'm saying I still don't know what she does. She doesn't act or sing or anything. And then she has a reality show, but was it just, she just did she make her sex tape with a famous person? I'm really seriously, I have no idea why she's famous. It doesn't make much of a difference. She's famous now, and lots of people follow what she does for whatever reason. And, so if you act, big deal. Okay, I know what you do. I now understand what you do. That's all. The only benefit to me is I now understand where you came from. The fact that you act makes it comprehensible for me. Okay, this is how that person got to be famous. And that's all. It's just for my own comfort level. That's all, because all you're doing is pretending to be somebody else. And, there's a skill to it and stuff, but not everybody has the same amount of skill. And it's not really necessarily a super duper skill for everybody. A lot of people are just, I'm a good looking person, and if I work hard enough, I can remember these lines and say them a few at a time and film that. And it's a career. I'm not doing it. I don't look like that. I can't remember that many lines. And, pretend to be whatever. I'm not disparaging it. I'm just saying, it's a weird occupation. Anyway, she showed up with the portfolio of prison reform. And I don't know whether it was deeper than lobbying for clemency or a pardon for Alice Johnson or not, but it doesn't matter. She seems to have gotten the job done, and that's a good thing. By all accounts, people who understand the case know that this pardon was a long time coming and well-deserved. It's unfortunate that it had to come from somebody as doofy as Trump, but apparently the deep thinkers wouldn't give her a pardon for whatever reason. I'm sure that I know that this was under consideration for President Obama, and he probably thought too hard about it and thought, I'm going to get painted as some sort of bleeding heart liberal, or like I did it for some sort of racial identity reasons because Alice Johnson happens to be black. I don't know what prevented him from doing it, but it shouldn't have been prevented from being done, especially on your way out of office. No harm done there. He didn't do it. Trump did. The only reason it's a problem is I don't think he has any idea, who that person was. If I felt like he gave deep consideration to the case, I'd feel better. But what I think happened was a famous person asked him to do it, so he did it. And I think, according to the articles that are out now, he's really super fixated on pardons, not just the ones for himself, although I'm sure that occupies the bulk of his time. He likes signing things and getting things done, and he's now realized pardons are one of those things that nobody can say no to him on. And I think he probably thought, if I issue this one, liberals, if they attack me, will laugh in their faces because they wanted this pardon. So, it's a no-lose proposition for him. And he shouldn't be attacking. I don't attack him for giving the pardon, really, or her for seeking the pardon, or Alice Johnson for seeking the pardon. But it's just telling that after changing this woman's life forever, and it should be, the whole pardon power thing is supposed to be a deep and meaningful and super contemplative process. And his is, Kim Kardashian wants, okay, so let's take a picture. Pardon. Okay, good luck, Alice Johnson. Have a nice life. And then he goes on to tweet about his various anger issues. So that's where we are for the morning. There is more news. He also anger tweeted about having to go to the G7 summit. Rudy Giuliani is in Israel talking about Stormy Daniels. Totally perfectly appropriate topic of discussion. I think maybe he could have saved that one for the Western Wall even. And, many other things happening. Greg Dworkin even called. That's news. Good morning, Greg. How are you?
Hey, good morning. There's so much news and so little time. But since you talked about the pardons and Kim Kardashian, I have some stuff to follow up on that.
Oh, good. Yeah. All right. Why not?
Pardon me.
I will.
Yeah.
You're very famous.
This can go on for a long, long time. So here's the thing. First of all, Kim Kardashian, of course, his signature line is she's famous for being famous.
Yeah, but
that's what she does. However,
I can't
to put this in
that.
a little context.
Yes, right? I'm gonna look it up. Go ahead.
Context?
I have before, but yes, a Vox Explainer. What is context, Greg?
Context. So Olivier Knox, who is a very good Washington correspondent, now works for Sirius XM, had a little tweet, very short tweet storm the other day, May 30th, and he talked a little bit about celebrities.
Okay.
And he said, since we're talking about celebrities and their causes, a wee meandering story with no real point, so I thought it was perfect for the show, for my segment anyway. Just something I found interesting. In February 2008, I met Bob Geldorf as he tagged along for parts of a GWB trip to Africa.
Okay.
I asked him how you institutionalize or preserve a charity that relies on celebrities, and he was pretty candid, said he didn't think it would necessarily outlive him. And then he told me there are 3 kinds of celebrities in cause work.
See, cause célèbre.
Mm-hmm. First kind, he said, were the ones you want just doing ads or PSAs, public service announcements.
Okay.
They have fans and a lot of goodwill, but are not inclined or maybe able to process technical details.
Okay.
The second kind were the ones with significant star power and enough of a mastery of a topic they could talk to the president of a country about a given issue.
Okay.
So Kim Kardashian falls in that category because she just talked to the president of a country about a given issue. Right?
Yeah.
And the third kind, by far the rarest, were the ones with star power and so much mastery of a topic that they could talk to the finance and treasury minister of a country making technical complex arguments about national investments.
Yes, okay.
He said, as I said, it's kind of meandering and pointless, but it's a classification system that always stuck with me, so thanks for reading. And I'm thinking about Kim Kardashian. Now, she's not George Clooney, who I would put in the third category. Could talk to a finance minister.
He seems like it. I don't know.
Just thinking of Bono. I mean, these are people that have really mastered
I think
a particular issue so much that they could talk to anybody about it.
That's the press they get anyway, and I'll believe that.
But there's not that many of them. You can name them, but they're like a handful of them. Whereas Kardashian fits in more to the star power and is read up on something and then can go talk to the president about it. And given the president's depth of knowledge about it,
Oh, you're the genius in the room.
Yeah, exactly. So that's where I put Kardashian.
And I don't think she'd have a problem with that either. So
no, I think it's not insulting. I think that's a pretty reasonable category there. But I wouldn't necessarily make her, Secretary of Prison Reform any more than I would make Jared Kushner. Of course, that's already been done.
Donald Trump, that's different.
Yeah. And the other thing that I was reading in terms of these pardons is that one of the reasons Obama never pardoned this lady is because it never came to him because his other folks blocked it. I mean, it's got to go through a process, and it never got through the process. I don't know why. That was you don't ever talk about that.
Yeah, I think it did. I mean,
as to why you didn't get past X, Y, or Z. You just know you applied and you were rejected.
Right. Now, I think I was given to understand, although, again, I haven't done any deep research on it, but I thought that it made it through the process and was sort of like on the president's desk for final consideration.
I don't
know that that's the case, but I better check before we say anything about, Obama made this decision not to. But,
I don't know. The other side of the coin, though, is that there's always a short list.
Yes.
If you have a competent staff of pardons that might happen.
Right. Now, if you have a pardon attorney. There is no pardon attorney now. It's just Trump. It's literally, there isn't one. The office is vacant. Yeah, normally they have a person who heads up an office with a staff, and they sort through this stuff.
Right.
He watches TV and gives it to whoever asks.
The other side of the coin is, why did he do it?
Yeah.
And here I turn to a conservative legal commentator, Popat, who I thought has some interesting comments on this.
Okay.
He says, Trump's pardons of D'Souza and Arpaio and Libby and rumored contemplated pardons of Stewart and Blago show consistent messaging. This is before the Kardashian thing. Mm-hmm. But he's talking about pardons in general and why Trump does what he does. The Libby pardon and rumored Stewart pardon say the government abuses its ability to prosecute people for lies and obstruction when being investigated. That message is obviously helpful to his team. It's true to some extent, though he's not a credible or sincere opponent. Mm-hmm. The Arpaio and D'Souza pardons say the liberals persecute people with conservative views, which again is helpful to him and his team, particularly since he's convinced some dim partisan people that Mueller and Rosenstein are liberals, 13 Angry Democrats and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And taken after the Henry Fonda movie, 12 Angry Men. The rumored Blago pardon, and to some extent the Libby and Arpaio pardons, say partisan political maneuvering isn't criminal, which again is a message that serves his team in the current investigation very well. It's significant to note, if he pardons Stewart and Blago, he'd be extending this message far enough to pardon partisan Democrats, which gives him a veneer of credibility. Mostly, though, the consistent message is to his current and former allies, I have your back, hoping they will not cooperate against him or against other allies. He's not sincerely against political excessive prosecutions at all. They're in a stump speech. And by the way, there's another plausible interpretation that we're imposing meaning on chaos.
Oh, yes.
Right? So one interpretation is everything he does is sending a message to the people who are currently under indictment or threatened with indictment, meaning Manafort and Cohen, people who have stuff that they might spill, and maybe Flynn as well, and everybody who's still working around him now. And the other is, of course, he hasn't a clue as to what he's doing. He just does it because he thinks it sounds good.
Yeah.
So, that all goes into why he does it. Clearly, if he pardoned somebody because Kim Kardashian asked him, he thought it was in his best interest to do so.
Yes.
Otherwise, he wouldn't have done it. He didn't do it on the merits. That's out of the question.
Yeah. He thought, and I credit him with some ability to think. It's just a matter of in what way does he?
Yeah. He's that's his superpower.
In which way will this look good for me? So okay, he can figure that out. And I don't know. I mean, a lot of people were after this pardon, so it doesn't bother me a great deal. It bothers me that he's handling a very solemn power. Like among the other solemn powers he's got, he treats it like a joke. He's got no idea what's
he's unfit for president. Let's do a lightning round of things that he screws up. Speaking of his solemn power, here's one from Rosalind Helderman. Because I want to get to some polling this morning because I think that's interesting.
Really?
Rosalind Helderman. Recording shows a closed-door hurricane preparedness meeting. Trump had everything else on his mind.
Yes.
Airplane deals, Korea summit, his popularity, but he didn't really want to talk about hurricanes. So remember Puerto Rico. He's trying his best not to.
Yes.
But, there's that. Greg Sargent has a piece. He's citing Kyle Kondik. Dems boosted their share of the vote in multiple California districts relative to the average of the last three cycles. A very useful breakdown and chart from Kyle Kondik. So the D-share average general growth ranges from 1% to 9% for a large number of the districts that were open.
Okay.
So how are they doing? Fairly well. It's interesting because 2 days later, now you get all the hot takes.
Okay. It's time.
And some of the hot takes are just wrong.
What?
For example, I saw this morning in the Washington Post, their lead story right now.
Yes. Democrats
get boosted in fight for control of House, but may fall short of a blue wave.
Okay. Not unexpected for a newspaper, sure.
Right, but it's wrong. Okay.
Oh, well.
And here's the blurb. Is the Michael Scherer piece, who I think is an awful analyst, by the way.
Oh.
The one time I took issue with the Daily 202, and I was looking about what is James Hillman writing here? It's garbage. Oh, it's not. He's on vacation. Michael Scherer is writing it. Okay. Democrats get boost in fight for control of the House, but may fall short of a blue wave. Remember that. The party hopes that more Americans will view the midterms election as a chance to put a check on unified Republican control in Washington. Yet the improving economic outlook appears to be having some effect on partisan sentiment, putting in question the depth of the Democratic advantage.
Okay.
But that's just wrong. And we know that from a NBC Wall Street Journal poll that's out this morning, which shows the generic ballot up to 10 from 7. Okay. And specifically says in swing House districts, knowing that a candidate supports Trump tax cut bill makes voters less likely to back the candidate by a margin of 12 percentage points.
Wait. Says the entire Republican Party. I was told, okay, that's backwards.
Let's just look at the whole headline for the piece.
All right.
Economic satisfaction under Trump isn't helping his party's 2018 chances. That's not what Michael Scherer said.
I know, but
it's the opposite of what Michael Scherer said. That's because Scherer is wrong.
Oh, well.
Okay. Many voters give Trump credit for an improving economy, but they also say they prefer congressional candidates who'd be a check on the president. Like 50% or more of them say that.
Oh.
By a whopping 25-point margin, voters say they're more likely to back a congressional candidate who promises to serve as a check on Trump, according to new national polling. And by a similar margin, they say they're less likely to vote for somebody who supported the president on most issues.
Oh. Now you tell me.
So that's part one. Part two of why he's wrong. I read a tweet storm about this.
Oh.
So naturally, I'm going to read it to you because
Yes.
you're my friend and you'll listen and you'll pretend it makes sense. So
hey, that's great. What?
Right?
Did you? All right. So go ahead. I'm
Robert
practicing.
Costa summarizes the Shearer piece. Democrats need a net gain of 23 seats to retake the House and have benefited from a playing field that's largely located in suburbs of major American cities, and then goes on to talk about, but the chances of a wave is receding.
Okay. That's the wrong thing.
It is. It's terribly wrong.
All right.
So my tweet storm goes thusly. There's a fundamental misunderstanding of what a wave is.
Okay.
Okay?
I'm not in
And
this
I'll
storm.
quote Amy Walter, who I consider an expert, from Cook Political Report, and she's been around. She's a very smart analyst. A lot of people think a wave election means one party crushes the other party by big margins and lots of seats. Obviously, that's what Shearer and a lot of these analysts think. But she says what really happens is that the margin of error races break overwhelmingly for one party. So you have all of these one-point races, and it's a wave when they all go to the same party. Not that each individual race is a plus 15 for the Democrats. That's not what happens in real life.
It would be great.
It would be great, but that's not what happens, and that's not what people are talking about when they say a wave.
All right.
So given the above, there is no way a wave can be guaranteed because, by definition, it's happening in these close marginal districts. And by definition, you can't estimate the chances for one are diminishing or increasing because these are really close races. So the whole idea that Shearer is saying, well, I looked at California and therefore a blue wave is receding because the economy is good, it's just the dumbest thing on so many levels. You can't predict that kind of wave, and you're wrong about what you think about the economy and how it impacts voters.
And that's not even the metric that defines what a wave is.
Right. I mean,
Okay.
So I read that and said, what? Well,
No wonder that bothered you.
it bothered me because it's just like totally wrong. If
On
all those
several
close
levels,
races break
like you
one
said.
way, the pundits will profess surprise, and then they'll write a piece about it, how they saw it coming.
Because we were in the diners.
Right. But in any case, Q poll yesterday, +7 for the Democrats, NBC +10, and the Civics poll that you know I follow, that is not associated with Daily Kos, but is a Kos Media sponsored poll. Civics is up +7. Actually, that's rising. So, in fact, I'm going to send you that link because that's the one that we're looking at in terms of how the Democratic line is pretty solid, and like you can do it with a ruler.
Right.
But the Republicans go up and down. Actually, the Democrats are increasing a little bit now. It had been 4 or 5 for the past month or so. Now it's up to 7. So meanwhile, the averages have jumped from +3 to +6 in Real Clear Politics and 538 with the addition of these recent polls. And these are quality polls. And here's a pro tip. The average didn't change from 3 to 6 in 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what the lines suggest. But that's because they just added in these other polls that happen to show 7 to 10-point leads for the Democrats. In other words, it's noise. It's variation. When I said that the averages really haven't changed all that much, I meant they really haven't changed all that much.
Okay.
If you're going to rely on Rasmussen and Ipsos,
I am not.
then it's going to look narrow. But if you add these other polls in, then it gets wide. And they only poll once a month. Every month, the gap widens. That's because they add in these new polls.
Oh, all right. Well, that's a good explanation.
But the fact is, Democrats loathe Trump. They're enthused to vote. They oppose his agenda. And they care about the rule of law. So let's cue the what do they stand for pieces.
Oh, all right.
Right?
Yeah,
And the bottom line is they stand for a
something.
check on Trump, stupid.
Okay.
It's not the economy, stupid. It's a check on Trump. Just ask the women. That was my piece from this morning.
Just ask the history of every midterm election ever.
Yeah, something along those lines where you vote against the president's party.
Yeah.
So, again, there's going to be Democratic pickup. Everybody agrees on that. They don't know how many. We don't know how many. It may well be that we pick up 25 seats when we need 24. It may well that we pick 40. You can't tell. And so if you can't tell, you also can't tell that, the likelihood of this happening is less than it was last month. You don't know that.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing you know is you've been talking to Republicans who are, quote, more confident about it. Remember, Republicans are confident about everything, and Democrats are nervous about everything. That is our DNA.
Yes.
So if you're just going to go by anecdotal discussions with people in D.C., you're going to get that opinion. But that's all it is an opinion. We don't know.
Okay. Yeah, well, we've got to get used to it.
We do. So I just thought that was
Bake
of
it
interest.
into your mixing. Yes, it is. I think I get it, and I think I have a better understanding of things. That's one of the good reasons we have you on. It gives me a better understanding of, for instance, like what we've been saying all along, why a certain margin in a generic ballot poll would mean anything in terms of the chances of a House turnover. And now finally this all falls into place with Amy Walters' explanation that you gave today.
True.
I think that makes sense. The greater the difference, the greater the margin in the generic ballot, the greater the chances that a higher number of closely contested seats will break at the margin on election day by a vote or two, if necessary, to the D side.
Right. And Charlie Cook has said this for a long time. When we talk about the fact that we have, 25 seats or so, whatever the number is, I haven't looked at it recently, that say it's a toss-up, we don't think that the toss-up 25 seats means that 12 are going to go one way and 13 are going to go another way. Typically what happens in an election is the majority of them go one way. Yeah. And a wave is most of them go one way.
Okay.
It's that simple.
Well, that does make it easier to understand. And it's just so, I guess, and the better you're doing in the generic ballot, the more the chance that marginal person that's necessary to change the outcome of the election decides, I think I will go.
Right, but also the difference between a wave and just an ordinary win isn't that much.
That's true. I mean, just like the guy who graduates last in medical school.
Yeah, exactly right. They still call him doctor, and we still call it a mandate.
Yes. Oh, that's true. Well, if it's a Republican, it's a mandate.
Yep.
All right. Well, we'll be right back with our own mandate after this. Hi, everybody. It's me, David. Let's change things up from the old fundraising pitch for just a minute and talk instead about how you can be a part of our show. If you've got a smartphone or any other electronic recording device, why not sit down and record a segment for us? Read us an important article and give us your take. Or read one of your own original essays, or even just give us your commentary on something you'd like to share that's important to you. Then send the file to me at kagrox@gmail.com, and I'll try and work it into the show. Short segments, a few minutes in length, are easiest to fit in. And of course, I can't always guarantee that I'll be able to play everything, but if you've ever shouted at your radio or TV about something you wish was being covered, here's your chance to change that. Make the show your own. Send your submissions to me at kagrox@gmail.com. Welcome back now to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Netroots Radio. Greg is still with us. We're getting ready for our morning. The rest of you are too. We're going to give you as much more of the news as we can possibly stand before you give up and go to work. All right, let's see. Where were we? We just finished up with, I think, an excellent explainer. Once again, we love the explainers of the polling. And finally, to me, I mean, it always made sense when you told me the thing. But now I think the various strands of the statistical picture are clearer for me. Why, a lot of people will ask, okay, but what does a generic ballot tell us? Well, it doesn't tell us that much, but it is a necessary part of trying to decide how many toss-up races that are within the margin of error are likely to fall in one direction, and which direction might that be. And all it is a guess. But that's all anything ever is, really. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. I feel like, once again, I criticize Trump for being this goofy and indecisive as president of the United States. Granted, he's supposedly president and I'm not. He's supposed to be more decisive about these things because he's a decision maker and a deal maker. But everything. We'll see. Maybe yes, maybe no. Maybe I'll come to work. Maybe I won't. I don't know. All right, Greg, where were we? What were we going to move on to next?
We're talking about mandates, Just remember when George W. Bush won by 537 votes, he had a mandate.
Oh, yes, right. Mandate, right. Time to go.
So this whole headline with the NBC Wall Street Journal poll, I think, is important, and the discussion about it, I think, is important. And The other background, of course, is kind of the falling apart of the Republican Party that's happening. And it's like a slow walk, so you may not see it if you're not looking. It's like watching kids grow, you know. If you don't measure it periodically, you don't even notice that they have if you look from day to day. But if you look from year to year, you do. So, and if you're the one buying them clothes, you certainly do. Let me give you some examples here. We have Trump signing a sweeping new VA healthcare bill.
Okay.
While trying to kill a plan to fund it behind the scenes.
Well, that seems familiar.
Right? So let's just call him the Potemkin Village presidency, because given his Russian collusion, why shouldn't we? But everything he does is for show, and that includes the pardons we were talking about.
Right.
Joseph Hagan, point person on the Korea summit, plans to leave White House.
Now?
Well, unclear.
Okay.
He's deputy chief of staff. He's President Trump's point person arranging the North Korean nuclear summit. He's preparing to leave the West Wing post soon. And he was just in Singapore, and he's not in Singapore now. And maybe he'll go and be deputy director of the CIA, but that would take a grown-up out of the White House.
Oh. Well, who cares?
Well, you know, if you'd like to avert war, you might.
It's what's done is done. We might have
well, it hasn't happened yet.
a war.
So
we might not. I don't know. Who knows?
It's just a reminder, you know, that Trump will go and declare victory because we have a McDonald's in North Korea, and everybody will say, yay! And, of course, everything is set up for, like, disaster later on, because that's exactly what Trump is doing. Here we have a good one. This is about Sean Hannity advising on a show yesterday that everybody who has a phone that talked to anybody in Washington should destroy their phones. So he's advising Mueller witnesses to destroy evidence.
Oh.
Quote, take your phones and bash them with a hammer into itsy-bitsy pieces, use bleach bit, remove the SIM cards, and then take the pieces and hand it over to Robert Mueller, he says.
Right, because there's no computers on the cell phone networks.
Yeah, it's not like they already have the stuff, you know.
Right.
So I presume he's talking about people who have talked to him.
Yeah, well, maybe,
Sean
yes.
Hannity.
Smash your coffee makers, too.
Because it's embarrassing when, you know, he gets on the news.
This is like the fifth piece of durable equipment that he's asked people to smash.
He has a thing about it.
Yeah, he's just it's boosting the economy, I guess, but not necessarily with American manufacturers. So go out, smash your phone, and go get a ZTE.
Quartz, which is a media outlet.
Oh, yes. All right.
QZ.com. Quartz.
Right.
Trump finally did the one thing that will drive powerful Republicans away.
Oh.
It's true. As president, it says Donald Trump has insulted U.S. allies and top Republicans, threatened nuclear war, shared top secret intelligence with Russia, pushed immigration policies that are ripping apart families and damaging the U.S.'s image abroad, let alone Puerto Rico, and his incompetence there. But until now, the Republican Party stood by its president. However, last week, Trump went too far.
Oh.
Threatened tariffs.
Oh, right. Yes. I hate those.
The Koch brothers are very unhappy. They're pulling their money network from Republicans who support that. They're free traders.
Okay.
Jeff Flake slams Trump over trade. This is not grown-up leadership. And then Trump. That's the context behind your comment at the beginning of the show that Trump is complaining about Canada PM Justin Trudeau and going to Canada for the G7. He's telling aides the trip won't be useful. He doesn't want to be lectured. He has griped extensively about Angela Merkel and Theresa May. And, he doesn't like being lectured by people who know a whole lot more than he does.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll be honest, I don't either.
Right? But that's happening in the background. So there's a little stirring here. There's a little annoyance there.
Yeah.
This morning, the third GOPer broke with Trump on Ligate and suggests that POTUS just wants more chaos. That was Tom Rooney, Republican of Florida. He's now the third Republican lawmaker, along with Trey Gowdy and Paul Ryan, to break with President Donald Trump in his assessment of the use of a government informant to meet with aides in his campaign. What's the point of saying there's a spy in the campaign when there's none? Rooney, a member of the House Intelligence Committee, told Politico. You know what I'm saying? It's like, let's create this thing to tweet about knowing it's not true. Maybe it's just to create more chaos, but it doesn't really help.
Right. How did he vote on Benghazi?
Well, I don't know.
I guess.
So where is all of that? Remember, Paul Ryan was the second.
Yes.
The famous
was the first. Paul Ryan.
So Paul Ryan
what a great
says,
collection.
no, there's nothing to it. And, of course, I absolutely support Trey Gowdy on this.
Okay.
Right? So he says that, Matt Gaetz, freshman Republican, this is a Rachel Bade tweet, says conservatives are now openly discussing whether Ryan should remain Speaker after the Wisconsin Republican said there's no evidence to support Trump's Spygate theory.
Yeah, sure.
So Representative Matt Gaetz, Gaetz, not to be confused with a similar sounding Democratic operative who's on Twitter. So Representative Gaetz is on Lou Dobbs, and both of them are saying Ryan has to go. On Fox News.
Does he have a TV show still, Lou Dobbs? He does, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and he's like more Trumpist than Sean Hannity. That's how bad it is.
Yeah, he calls
But
him
while
too.
this is happening, here's a piece, two pieces that are quite relevant here. McClatchy yesterday had a piece, House plan for vote on Dreamers will be set this week, key member says. Jeff Denham, who just won his one of two slots in the jungle primary in California, is one of the people that's pushing for the discharge petition to have immigration bills come up on the House floor. Presumptively, they'll pass because they'll have Democratic votes. Not just the discharge petition, but some of those pieces may actually pass because they have Democratic votes, which is why the Republicans don't want to vote on it. And they're still doing the old Hester, not really a rule, that if the majority doesn't support it, then they don't want to do it. It's not even clear the majority doesn't support it. They probably don't. But certainly the House Freedom Caucus doesn't, and Ryan is enthralled to them. So the fact that Denham and the moderates are pushing this immigration package to come to the floor is anathema to the conservatives. They want to run really hard on immigration issues because they don't have the tax thing anymore. So Ryan is supposed to be the leader who figures all this out, and the very rare discharge petition, a process thing where if it should come to pass, you're going to have a lot to tell us about on Friday, is more and more people seem to be signing on to it, and it might actually reach a number of signatures forcing this onto the floor, even though the House Speaker doesn't want it. So while this is happening, the entire Republican conference is having a big meeting today about immigration.
Okay.
This is from Politico's playbook, setting the table. Today's big immigration meeting. House Republicans facing an immigration revolt from both poles of their conference will meet this morning in the basement of the Capitol to try to settle some of the most nettlesome migrant policies that have felled the party leaders for more than half a dozen years. Republican leaders are looking to wrestle back control of the House floor by orchestrating a series of GOP immigration votes that relegates the so-called discharge petition to the dustbin. In short, Republican leaders want the power of their majority back, but keep your expectations low. Meetings with upwards of 230 members of Congress, dozens of aides, and a hallway full of reporters are typically not fruitful or helpful. Gatherings of this nature typically devolve into hours of grandstanding and screaming matches.
Cool. I like
So
those.
I like that too. So that's what to look for today.
Yes. And they can engineer something up. And I guess what they're hinting at there is that they're looking for what we bring. Well, I guess the underlying question is
when is an issue too?
Right. And what
I
they're looking
promise you we'll
for
bring
is
this up before 2029.
yes, they're talking to the people who represent the 217 and 218th signature on the discharge petition, or whatever the number would need to be. I don't know if there's any vacant seats, but you got to have a majority of the House on the petition. And if there's one or two signatures to go, you can talk to the people who are considering signing but haven't signed yet and say, listen, if you don't sign, in exchange for that, we're going to have the Rules Committee quick write up a rule to consider some immigration provisions. We'll give you, some say in which ones we do. What they can do is they can bring up a rule and pull another bill from somewhere besides the one that's going to be discharged. And if they can get the last guys to agree not to sign but instead to endorse this Rules Committee emergency move, they can bring out something that moots the discharge petition and not have that embarrassment.
Yeah, all they have to do is get both the moderates and the Freedom Caucus people to agree on what they're doing.
Right.
Simple as that.
Yes. And yeah, I mean, a really good and deft leadership would be able to come up with two alternatives, one which the Freedom Caucus loves and one which the moderates love, but neither of which will be able to get to 218 votes, bring them both to the floor and say, we tried. And an idiotic moderate would agree not to sign the petition in exchange for a chance for, to be a star and save the day. if they stick to their guns and just say, we don't need you, we don't need the deal, all I have to do is go to the floor and sign this thing and I get what I want. If they don't realize the power that they've got, or they get threatened with something else. Like, I know you can do that, and that's why I will break your goddamn legs if you do. Right. Oh, well, that's now that you put it that way.
So, as Political Playbook puts it, the important caveat in all of this,
yes,
and they have this in big, bold, capital letters, this is a scheme.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Nearly everyone involved in the process understands that
right.
whatever passes, either via discharge petition or the leadership-driven process, will not become law. Yeah. This is a political exercise. But how it'll go down, Speaker Paul Ryan is going to lay out, probably by PowerPoint slide style, where the two camps agree, where they still have work to do. He'll open it up for questions. Everybody yells at him. Nobody knows what happens next.
Yeah. Well,
I added those last two lines, but that's what happened.
That is true. Smart thing to do if you're considering signing a petition. Go to the meeting, say nothing, go sign, and then your speaker is about to retire. Don't worry about it.
There are apparently 3 signatures left, and I think there's one Democrat who hasn't signed yet.
Oh, well, it's Joe Manchin, but he's in the Senate.
No. It's somebody, I can't remember who. Somebody in California who wants to be clear that there's a path to citizenship.
Okay.
And why he's holding out, I think it's because he wants to put pressure on his own leadership.
Yes.
I don't know how that works in this setting. This is all a scheme.
Not well.
And political posturing, so I don't see the point. So I assume his is political posturing too. And if he were the last person to sign the petition, he would.
Maybe. We'll see. I understand what he's doing, but I think the point of his leverage is past. I think it's a Republican thing now.
Right, exactly. It's entirely a Republican thing now, so I don't see the point of trying to put pressure on your own people. I'm going to put pressure on you, David Waldman, because I want you to make sure this thing passes. But
thanks.
It's not up to you. It's up to the Freedom Caucus arguing with Jeff Denham and the moderates.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I mean, and that should be his answer at this point. So, well, originally I was pressuring my leadership. That time has passed, but that doesn't mean I'm going to sign on to a procedure that doesn't have a path to citizenship. Don't worry about it.
Meanwhile, Denham is still telling McClatchy, we're set to do this. By the end of the week, we'll have the signatures we need.
Okay, well, that's tomorrow.
And they say it is 218, so I guess there's no vacancies.
Right.
Then the House would vote on 4 immigration bills June 25th. The moment the most votes, assuming a majority, would be sent to the Senate. And the 4 bills are the USA Act, which provides a path to legal citizenship for DACA recipients while also providing more for immigration enforcement. The DREAM Act, which provides a path to legal citizenship without increasing immigration enforcement. The Securing America's Future Act, which includes border wall funding, significant cuts to paths to legal immigration, and no pathway to permanent citizenship for Dreamers, and an unnamed bill that Ryan gets to choose.
Ryan.
Yeah, because leadership has to be leading, you know.
I guess that was the inducement to get out of the way, but all right, whatever.
The DREAM Act, which provides a path to legal citizenship without increased immigration enforcement. Republicans such as Tom MacArthur, Republican New Jersey, have worried that the discharge petition would advance the DREAM Act since it has widespread Democratic support, and Trump is unlikely to sign it. But as we just said, it's all posturing. It doesn't matter whether Trump signs it or not. We know he's not going to sign it. The point is to get it out and show that there's majority support in the House for this.
Yes, and we should keep referring to it as not going to sign it and just say, yeah, Trump's not going to sign it, and then he'll think that's the same thing as a veto.
He wouldn't dare sign it.
Right. And this is not necessarily to get him to sign it. Like he'll say, I understand that. That's reverse psychology. I just want him to forget that if a president doesn't sign the bill, it becomes law anyway. He has to actively veto it in order to stop it, but I don't want him to know.
Don't tell him that.
Yeah, right. So, sir, turn the radio off. Thank you. That's what will happen. But I would love to see him make that mistake, and he honestly could. Really, all you have to do is get him there to sign it. That's probably the best remedy. You want him to not sign it, invite him there to sign it. He'll tell you how big his election victory is and leave. And this time you just let him go.
Right. Anyway, so that's pretty much my summary for today. A little of this, a little of that, but I thought it was, some kind of complicated stuff going on here, and I was trying to at least dumb it down so I could understand it.
Okay. Which
is normally what I do here, but...
well, are you dumber?
I think I understand it, so I guess I must be.
Okay. Mission accomplished. Give me a banner.
Right, exactly right. And with that, it's the end of the week from me. You've got tomorrow.
Yes.
And I'll be back Monday, and we'll do it again.
Sigh. Yes, all right. Allegedly, there's this North Korea thing in between, and Rudy Giuliani.
That's true. Maybe there'll be
his
nuclear war,
best
and
to
then
make
you
them
won't
angry.
even have to do the show.
Could be. I would rather be off the hook for other reasons, but it's effective. I'll give him that.
Well, maybe nuclear winter will just disturb the interwebs, and you won't be able to get on. These things happen.
Yes, and couldn't come at a better time with coolant low in our air conditioning system.
Right, and and Trump supporters will say, well, never mind that. What about when Obama wore his tan suit? It was like just as bad.
Holocaust suit. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Very good.
Okay, take care, and I'll talk to you.
Thank you very much. We'll see you next week, we think, Greg. All right, I feel like I understand things better now, too. I hope you do
Good,
as well.
Good. We have to add a little finessemanship to the show,
Right, because the punditry demands it.
Right, exactly right. Take care. Bye.
Thank you. You do the same. And the punditry does demand it. It reminds me of some good punditing I saw shared earlier today. This was a good point, and one of several follow-ups to the Tuesday primary elections, etc., which I think deserves a moment of our attention. I noticed the tweet of Michelle Dauber, or Dauber, I don't know if she says Dauber or Dauber, a professor at Stanford. So those of you who are listening on the Stanford campus and who have taken her classes can tell us if she is known as Professor Dauber or Professor Dauber, D-A-U-B-E-R. Michelle Dauber says, 2 years ago, 2 long years ago, I was on CNN, and Jeffrey Toobin, whom she calls out by Twitter handle, this is not a subtweet, this is a direct challenge. 2 years ago, I was on CNN, and Jeffrey Toobin said that while he thought Persky, this is Judge Aaron Persky, the one who Greg reminded us yesterday, lost in his bid, I guess, for renomination, and then, therefore, I guess, re-election to the bench. He is the guy who let the rapist swimmer go. Remember him? Brock. Blah, 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 blah. We can't remember the rest of his very manly name. You remember the case. But there was the big backlash, and people said we should bounce this judge out of office. Well, 2 years ago, Michelle Dauber said on CNN to Jeffrey Toobin that Persky had to go. Toobin said while he thought Persky deserved to be recalled, and I guess that's what was happening, a misunderstanding the procedural posture here. This is a recall vote, and I guess is that definitive? They just happened to put it on the ballot during the primaries, but there's no primary for should we recall or should we not. So while Persky deserved to be recalled, the effort would fail, Toobin predicted, because we, that is the people who thought he should be recalled, and I guess Michelle Dauber counts herself among them, we would never be able to sustain voter interest and attention. But nevertheless, we persisted. Perhaps Jeff should invite me back now, and it's hashtagged me too. So what happened here? Well, I guess 2 years ago she said, yeah, we ought to do something about this and bounce this judge out of office, and that's how long I guess it takes to get around to a recall election on it. And Jeffrey Toobin, not without some foundation, I would think, said, well, it's 2 years hence. People will forget this thing. And that might be true perhaps for a different office. Like, it's very difficult to hold an elected politician who votes on many, many important subjects, and those subjects change day to day and, are constantly in the news. It's easy to become distracted over the course of 2 years with respect to something that you think a congressman, congressperson, perhaps, president, senator, whatever, should be bounced out of office for. 2 years is an eternity, and it's still an eternity for an elected judge, but there's very little that will come up in the interim about an elected judge that a majority of the voters are going to have supersede in their mind some gigantic controversy about that judge. It's just not the nature of the office. So I think it was a bad prediction. It clearly didn't come true. And Jeff Toobin, I guess, really does probably owe Professor Dauber an opportunity to come back on the air and say, see, I told you. And he might even be willing to do that. I think he answered her tweet and said, yeah, you really should come back on or whatever. Or, I mean, he was sort of, it was, as I recall, the response, well, click on it. It was Jeffrey Toobin's Twitter feed. He said something, along the lines of, I would very much like to hear the full story of how you made this happen, Michelle Dauber. And she tweets, by the way, if you want to follow her along, ML, I don't know where L is her middle initial or whatever, ML Dauber, Dauber. I would very much like to hear the full story of how you made this happen, Michelle Dauber. And I'm not sure whether he is saying so honestly, like, yes, I am interested in you telling the story of the campaign that succeeded. I don't know whether it's tongue in cheek and he thinks that Michelle Dauber really didn't have very much, if anything, I don't know, to do with the campaign and like, I'd like to know how you made this happen. I don't really know what the situation is. She may be, locally famous in California for having been the voice of the recall effort. I don't actually know. So I can't tell you which one Toobin meant, but, it'd be nice to have an accountability moment for punditry at some point. And it would be fair game, I think, if Toobin said, ordinarily I think 2 years is an eternity in electoral politics. And I was analyzing this race, I now find. I would like for him to endorse what I said, basically, is what I'm saying. But I analyzed this race through the lens through which I normally analyze such things. A 2-year distance, a 2-year race to recall someone usually doesn't work as against somebody who treats an awful lot of important social issues and is in the newspaper frequently because of their voting and importance on a range of issues. And that's just not the case for a judge. And I think that basically will help clear it up. Okay, Greg is still listening, and so that's nice. So I get a little bit of a clarification on what was Professor Michelle, I should say, up to in all this. And she is one of, it looks like that's her there, 3 faces featured here. The judge, the defendant, the guilty party, as a matter of fact, and her. So that would be 3. Brock Turner's twisted legacy and a Stanford professor's relentless pursuit of justice is the subheader of this Julia Ioffe piece in, where are we? HuffPost. When the punishment feels like a crime is the actual header there. Shall we read this? Why not? Well, you know what? Actually, we'll say maybe perhaps not. We'll save this for another day to digest this entire story. But I think it makes very clear that she had a tremendous role in this. And if Toobin is being tongue-in-cheek, then he wasn't paying any more attention to the issue than I was, and probably ought not to be opining on it, as I should not. Anyway, in case you were wondering, we'll read at least the first couple paragraphs to give you a flavor of just how involved she really was here. And, maybe Toobin knows this and I'm the idiot here. It's entirely possible. I was not paying attention. I simply was with everybody who said, yeah, this Brock Turner thing is garbage. And, when I get around to it, and maybe that's why Toobin made the prediction. Most people probably were here on this, even if they lived in California. Whenever that election is, remind me when this comes around again. And Toobin just thought no one will take on the job of reminding people. And even if they do, it'll be too low budget, not get enough notice, and people won't figure it out. It's not enough for someone to go on Twitter on election day and say, by the way, bounce this judge. So I guess, she's a Stanford professor, and I think of, let's go back and reverse it. What is she a professor of? I think it's, she's a political science professor. Let's check it out here. I got to click on it and make sure. Well, it's not that easy to, click on the correct thing and find the, look at this. I'm all over the map now all of a sudden. Anyway, she probably, even if not a political science professor, honestly, any kind of professor at Stanford would likely be able to figure out that, it's going to take some work to get this done. She is professor at Stanford, and if I had read her entire profile, I would have seen chair of Recall Persky, the Twitter account, anyway. Author of sympatheticstate.com, a cat owner as well, so that'll answer your question. What kind of professor? I don't know, but I'm guessing one that's competent to the task of organizing this effort. And so, as Julia Ioffe reports here, and when's the date on this thing? Is there one? June 1st. Okay, so just beginning of the week, right before, or end of last week, right before the election. Just about the time that a competent campaign would require such a piece to be published in order to accomplish their ends. It didn't take long for them to find her. It begins soon after Michelle Dauber started teaching at Stanford Law School in the fall of 2001. A few female students came to her office and told her they had been sexually assaulted. After a time, she came to expect that if she kept her door open, especially in the first 3 months of the school year, a girl she had never met would come in crying. I know before she's made it all the way through the door what she's going to say, Dauber said. Dauber, now 53, is small and intense with a wavy mop of graying hair. It's good to be able to picture her, but not necessarily any part of the qualifications for pulling off something amazing like this, but okay, we're setting the scene. She seemed to understand the students' distress in a way that other professors didn't. She fought for the students in Stanford's Byzantine system, and then, when recourse failed to come, she fought to change the system. Very good. The students in her class on college sexual assault, many of whom were themselves survivors, seemed in awe of her, a friend told me. And I guess we all ought to be. Once, Dauber even let a student who no longer felt, I've lost my place, no longer felt safe on campus to live for a while in her Palo Alto home. Wow, along with her family, 4 chickens, not necessary, but they were there, and a rescued cat. And then, on January 18th, 2015, a friend of Dauber's own daughter was assaulted by a 19-year-old Stanford student named Brock Turner, and that was all she wrote in terms of getting her involved in that campaign. And so I'd love to hear more about how she organized it, too. Toobin, you better be serious. Welcome back now to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Netroots Radio. I haven't left off in reading Julia Ioffe's piece here, and I think I will leave off with the rest of it, not because it isn't important, not because it isn't insightful, but because I think we get the idea, and gosh, there's so much other stuff happening here that we need to catch up on. Excellent work by Professor Dauber here. Poor work by Jeffrey Toobin, and now I guess we wait and see whether he was being serious or not. And I don't really... I'll say this. If she doesn't get on the air with him, soon, I guess we'll know where he really stands on that, and basically we can all turn our back on Jeffrey Toobin as a serious commentator from here on in. Should that prove to be the case? I don't know why I feel like that might be the case. Maybe I underestimate Jeff Toobin. And why not? It's safe to do. Okay. Let's see. Other things that are happening today. This is not a huge issue, but it's out there and people are talking about it. I told you Rudy Giuliani is in Israel, and he would probably be saying this no matter where he is, but I think it's probably even more inappropriate to do on an overseas visit. He is offering up what in his opinion, is the best defense he can muster for Donald Trump, which means he's only making things worse for Donald Trump. And I guess it was his idea to remark the other day that basically Stormy Daniels there's so much rather. Okay, Stormy Daniels is back in the news. There's a really good reason and a really newsworthy reason that we should share why she's back in the news. But for the purposes of making this point, Giuliani is attacking her, and Empty Wheel started me off on this particular tangent here by retweeting and then responding to Jake Tapper's coverage of Giuliani's comments about Stormy Daniels, which were, explain to me, Rudy Giuliani, thrice married, whatever, explain to me how she could be damaged. I mean, she's now, of course, suing somebody, and we'll explain why. But, of course, when you file suit on against anybody, one of the defenses that you can make to the suit is, well, there was no damage done here. There's no remedy for a court to give you, even if you win. And if everybody recognizes that it is the case, then you can either, possibly get the suit dismissed early, or if you go to trial, you win it. So Giuliani is trying to say, explain to me how she could be damaged. I mean, she has no reputation. If you're going to sell your body for money, you just don't have a reputation. So he's trying to, do the slut-shaming thing here and say, well, you slept with Donald Trump for money, which is not even, I don't think Donald Trump alleges that that's what happened. And the story, as Stormy Daniels has always told it, is that she, just purposefully refused any offers of payment or favors or money. And she was just like, I thought it would be interesting to have sex with you. And now that's an unusual sort of, hi, how you doing? Wouldn't it be interesting to have sex? That's an interesting and unusual approach to human relationships, but she's an interesting and unusual person. She's one of those people who's just sort of open sexually. That's how you have to be, pretty much, if you're going to be in the porn industry, unless you're, of course, one of the many, many unfortunates coerced into it through other mechanisms, and that's a show for another day. But, okay, she's there by choice. There are such people. There are lots of them. Not all of them make their way into porn. They just find ways to be open sexually in their private lives, and they don't film it. But okay, this is what she does. I don't care. It's all right with me. She's happy. She's not being coerced. Good. That's all I need to know. Anyway, she explicitly eschewed payment and, was upset, kind of not terribly damaged, but rolled her eyes at the offer of money or I'll fly you around or whatever. She was willing to accept, hey, I know you, I met you, we socialized. For me, that's sex, whatever. And you want to put me on The Apprentice? All right, fine. I'd be cool with that. I'll appear, I appear in porn films. It's certainly no more embarrassing and probably no less to show up on The Celebrity Apprentice with you. What the hell? It could be interesting and fun. Maybe it'll pay me some money. But she was explicitly not out for money and was like rolling her eyes, knowing, and it probably happens to her a lot, that people who are fans of her porn film work say, hey, I think it would be fun to have sex with this person in real life instead of just fantasizing about it. But surely they'll want money from me because everybody wants money from me and everybody wants money. So I'll offer it and she'll say no. And I'll say, yeah, I misunderstood you if you're a decent person. Anyway, Giuliani, of course, trying to shame her and say there's no way she could be damaged in anything because she's in porn is his effort to smear her. And Jake Tapper isn't joining in any particular way in that effort or anything. He's just reporting what Giuliani said here. Empty Wheel makes a good comment and straightens this thing out. But I feel like I have to make more comments on it because that's the way it is. And it's not because Empty Wheel is a woman. Believe me. She says everything that usually needs to be said. I just happen to have delved into this particular episode a little more for different reasons. But Empty Wheel says, look, remember what actually happened here. Because, yeah, Giuliani is putting a very, very bad spin on it. One, because he's Giuliani, and two, because he's working for Trump. It was going to happen. She says, remember what actually happened here. Stormy and Trump had consensual sex. Then, to artificially protect his reputation, Trump paid her 6 figures to try to help him sustain a lie of respectability. I don't know who he was fooling with that. He's constantly blabbing about the affairs he wants to have. So, whatever. It's Trump, though, whose reputation is at issue, not Stormy's. And it's true, but I don't know if Giuliani is going to buy it. He's not going to buy anything. But more to the point to me, I thought, and, maybe Marcy also added this elsewhere, if you're going to make this accusation, and we should remember more than just what actually happened was that Stormy and Trump had consensual sex. What happened here is that Donald Trump flew himself to play in a charity golf tournament, at which he sucked, by the way. I have actually documented this. It's online. You can see his score. He tanked. He's a terrible golfer. And like everything else, he lies his ass off about it and says he's great. And, what we should really be spending time on is the very ludicrous meeting that he had at FEMA, supposedly for hurricane prevention, preparation, which Greg mentioned to you. And I mean, that thing is chock full of comments like, oh my God, just groaner after groaner of Trump just being Trump. I'm the greatest president who ever lived. Everybody is saying this. I saved a bazillion lives myself. I would have done more, but I was busy lifting weights, one-handed, whatever. But what's going on here, what's actually happening, like with his lies about everything else, he's at this golf tournament. His score, which he can't control because he doesn't run the tournament and isn't at one of his golf clubs. And in 2006, when this happened, he didn't know anybody would have any idea that he had no idea that anybody would be interested in what his golf score is. But there it is. It's posted on the internet. He's terrible. So what actually happens here, the fuller story, in other words, is he flew himself to Lake Tahoe to play in a charity golf tournament for celebrities, which, is self-indulgent to begin with. But of course, at the time, Melania is at home with the infant Barron. I believe Barron is at that point about 4 months old. I don't feel terrible for Melania. I'm sure she had a whole staff of nannies, but even so, generally speaking, human beings, when they have infants together with their intimate partners, prefer to have their intimate partners hang around and share the moments with them and help with the duties of raising the child, even if they're really mostly delegated to the nannies. So she's at home, and maybe she's gotten used to it at this point. He's off golfing and doing terribly at a charity golf tournament, but in a particular kind of charity golf tournament. And this is not unusual in the world of charity golf tournaments because, look, they're trying to, weasel a couple of extra bucks out of some rich people with disposable income. So they give them what they want. Golf. If you're a golf lover, you'll go and you play in a charity golf tournament and it's the excuse. Melania, it's a charity thing. I got to go. Go do what you want. I don't care. So he goes and, like I said, not unusual at a charity golf tournament because they're trying to give the big dollar donors what they want. It is raising money for God only knows what. Who cares? It's something great, I'm sure. American Century Challenge or whatever. I'm sure that company has a designated charity. And in order to lure bigger names and bigger money, they have, exhibitors there, and you can sponsor the thing and help underwrite the costs so that more of the money can go to charity. And I'm sure they donate too. One of the sponsors is whatever porn film company Stormy Daniels is working for at the time. It's a big outfit. They make a bazillion films a year. And so they said, we'll sponsor this tournament. It's a great thing to do. It's at Lake Tahoe. Charity, yes. Celebrities will come here, and mostly guys. And they're there for a guys' weekend, hanging out with their celebrity buddies. It's a lot of sports figures that play golf. We'll have a booth. We'll sell some of our porn stuff there, and maybe people will even buy it. But chiefly, we will have the celebrities who are there to play golf will come by to our booth and be photographed with our porn celebrities, and that's good for our brand. And they'll mingle, and it'll be fun. And we'll bring half dozen or so of our actresses to the booth to attract the sports guys / celebrities who are there to have their photos taken. Oh, look, hot women or people I recognize from my favorite porns or whatever it is. They'll go over there and they'll help promote this company's brand, and everybody will be happy, and they'll give them a goodie bag full of DVDs of their porn or whatever. And I don't know, golf towels with them naked on it. I don't know what you would give out at a thing like that, but they do it. That's the point. So what happens is Donald Trump, leaves the wife and child behind, goes to the charity golf tournament to have a guy's weekend, and lo and behold, finds his way to the Porn Incorporated booth where he finds Stormy Daniels, among others, and he mingles with them. So what ends up happening is, here's Giuliani saying the one who ought to be embarrassed here is Stormy Daniels, where the real story is Trump leaves the wife and kid behind, goes to Tahoe, makes a beeline for the porn booth, and basically pesters every single one of the porn actresses that this company has contracted to bring to this stupid golf tournament. And they got no escape. Their job for the weekend is to mingle with the celebrities, have pictures taken, and ride along in the golf carts and be seen looking sexy or whatever with as many celebrities as they can. So their hope really, probably, personally, for these women is, well, a lot of the celebrities who are playing are sports figures, and some of them are current players, some of them are recently retired. Let's, cross our fingers and hope that the celebrities who want to rub up against us, whether literally or figuratively, are, the football players, baseball players, soccer, I don't think any soccer players made it in 2006, but whatever, professional athletes, with whom we might even have fun rubbing in public. Oh no! I just found out that there are more than, current sports figures here at the celebrity golf tournament. Maury Povich is here, and I don't really want to rub up against him. But, he apparently behaved himself because no news stories about Maury Povich. And, by the way, he played fantastic golf. But worse than that, here comes that wrinkled leathern crap bag, Donald Trump, and his stupid reverse eye goggles, spray tan. His hair is all over the place. He's wearing this filthy golf hat, and he's smirking. Oh, he wants to rub on me. God damn it. Every effing time at one of these golf tournaments, we got to find the old bag wants to have, mingle time with us. Fine, whatever. We're used to it. We'll put up with it, etc. So Donald Trump propositions every single girl there. And maybe all the sports stars did too. I don't know. But, to make it out like, oh, well, the one who really ought to be ashamed of herself is Stormy Daniels. The guy went to the tournament knowing there was going to be a porn booth there, and he went right to it, and he propositioned every single one of them. Stormy told the story. Others of them told the story. He was bothering the hell out of us. He wanted us to go in his golf cart. We were like, fine, whatever. That's the job for the weekend. He invited me to his room. You should come over. I'm having dinner. And then he pulls the old, the stupid trick of they come to his room thinking they're going to go out on the town for dinner, but he's in, pajamas on the bed. And why don't you lie down and watch some telly? I thought we were going to dinner. Oh, you want to have some dinner? All right, fine. I'll order some chicken strips from room service. So, fine. Some of them put up with it, some of them don't. He propositioned them all. He wants a threesome he's trying to get with a couple of them. Everybody else is too disgusted with him. Stormy Daniels says, you know what? This goofball is kind of entertaining. It'll make a great story for the kids. I don't know. She does what she wants, right? So she hung around. She ends up having sex with him. That's the story here, is he's hitting on every porn star he can find until he hits pay dirt with one of them. And they're like, yeah, no money for me, thanks. And then later he realizes, oh, geez, I should have thought of this at the time, but now, whatever. I've found myself running for president, and now I have to pay somebody who probably isn't going to say much anyway. Please don't talk about the time we had sex, and in particular, please don't tell the story of how I tried with 18 other porn stars and I struck out, but you came around. And I don't know if Stormy Daniels is necessarily going to want to tell the story that way either, but nothing embarrasses her. I'm sure about the whole thing, so maybe she would. That's what's happening. Plus, he sucked at golf. Plus, by the way, also at that celebrity golf tournament, I noticed, and who played a lot better than he did also, Ben Roethlisberger was at that event, and he kept it in his pants. But Donald Trump, though, couldn't handle himself and had to have, he's, before I get out of here, I'm dropping trout with one of you chicks. And Stormy Daniels drew the short straw, and there it is. So, okay, that's great. Oh, and by the way, I see somebody tweeting around a GIF from the horrible appearance by Donald Trump and Rudy Giuliani on Saturday Night Live all those years ago. saying, please lecture us more on some credibility. There is, of course, you see it now if you're watching live. Not only does the scene feature Rudy Giuliani in drag and Donald Trump pretending to be attracted to him, but he also, in the scene, buries his face between Giuliani's fake boobs in all this and gets a smack on the face. It's all in good fun, but, if the question is credibility, then I guess that's a fine answer. All right, well, there you go. I'm wound up about that one, but I happen to have studied that event, mostly about the golf, but I thought I would share that additional take with you. Seems like fun. Seems like it was worth our time. It was not, but it seemed like it at the time. That's the good news. All right. Let's see. Other things that we need to cover today. Scott Pruitt, you thieving bastard. You're back in the news again. Take a day off, man. I knew the day couldn't go by without having a new scandalette about Scott Pruitt. This cheesy, chiseling thief is unbelievable. I thought we hit, well, we really did hit bottom on the used mattress thing. This is still a bounce up. But he's back in the news. The White House has had to ask Scott Pruitt, please stop coming to the White House to scam free lunches. Pruitt has been asked to stop eating lunch at the White House. Maybe it's not even free. Maybe they make you pay at the White House mess. I don't know. But it would explain it a lot easier if you didn't have to pay. Or maybe you have to pay, but you go and you say, but I'm the EPA administrator, bill the EPA. And it might work. Whereas a visitor to the White House who managed to gain access, however, it might happen to the White House mess, might have to pay cash. I don't know. EPA Administrator Scott Pruitt loves eating at the White House mess. And boy, do we have a White House mess. An exclusive U.S. Navy-run restaurant open only to White House officials, cabinet members, and other dignitaries. But apparently he liked it too much, and the White House has asked him to please eat elsewhere sometimes. Politico reports. I am reading, though, from Tegan Goddard's Political Wire, his excerpting of the story. Maybe we ought to open the Politico one to see if there's anything else fun and interesting. In response to Pruitt's recurring use of the restaurant next to the Situation Room in the basement of the West Wing, a member of the White House's Cabinet Affairs team told agency chiefs of staff in a meeting last year that cabinet members shouldn't treat the mess as their personal dining hall, which was, of course, an invitation to Scott Pruitt to use the White House mess as a personal dining hall. I won't have to pay if I eat there, I guess is probably the arrangement, or I bet it's highly subsidized if that's not the case. And it comes out of the U.S. Navy's pocket as well, which is, I love the troops. And I guess maybe at the time, maybe when they said you guys shouldn't do this, his first thought was I should listen, and instead I should try to get my wife a Chick-fil-A franchise, and then I can eat free Chick-fil-A every day. And that didn't work out. And I wonder whether it didn't work out because the wife was, it says that she didn't finish the application process. I don't know whether it was either too rigorous or maybe she was saying, well, I want a Chick-fil-A franchise, but I want it to be next to the EPA because my husband wants to be able to eat free chicken. And Chick-fil-A, I'm guessing, I'm making it up, I'm speculating, says, no, that's not a good location for that thing. All right, well, then I don't care anymore, and I want to be a nonprofit events planner. All right, we'll try that next. Another mess for Pruitt, reports Politico, overstaying his White House welcome at lunch. Too many visits for lunch at the mess earned a rebuke from the White House. Emily Holden, Andrew Restuccia, and Anthony Adragna are the reporters here. The Italian Americans out in force for this one. Maybe he liked the Italian food there at the mess. I wonder if they serve it. EPA Administrator Scott Pruitt loves eating at the White House mess. We learned from the excerpt from Tegan. Apparently liked it too much. In response to his recurring use of this restaurant, there was a Cabinet Affairs team memo, I guess, that went out. Listen, tell your bosses, don't eat here all the time. The message was clear, according to one person close to Pruitt. We love having Mr. Pruitt, but it's not meant for everyday use. Another person added that the White House asked cabinet members to visit the mess only occasionally because there are few tables available. And that's a link to what? Am I going to get a picture of the White House mess? Yeah, all right. It's a relatively small room, decorated a little bit like I'm sure Trump hopes his golf clubhouses look, wooden paneling and stuff. And yeah, there aren't that many tables. It's a relatively small place. Thank you for the photo. A renovation to update the West Wing HVAC, that's the heating and air conditioning system, last August included the mess kitchen and may have limited space, one person said. The renovation came shortly after the president tapped John Kelly as chief of staff, and he implemented several day-to-day changes to bring order to the White House. So probably in the same sweep where he was like, listen, Ivanka, stop walking in. You guys have to get security clearances. I don't want people bringing him unvetted stuff and laying it in front of him like Stephen Miller and Steve Bannon used to do. And P.S., all you jerks, brown bag it, for Christ's sake. Get out of my mess. That's probably what happened. I have an innate understanding of these things. You know how it goes. Pruitt has been known to complain that EPA headquarters has no cafeteria of its own that he can use to eat for free, and no private dining quarters, according to multiple sources, who said Pruitt still often heads to the White House for lunch. That is to say, regardless of the memo. Interesting. And yeah, I'm sure he was angry and disappointed to find out, what's his name? Ben Carson has a private dining room in his office. They just made a big deal out of buying a $30,000 dining table. Why don't I have that? And, probably some other people have these things too. Well, EPA was a latecomer to the cabinet, and they built the headquarters probably during the era in which it was already very much passé to expect that the secretary of whatever the hell it is was going to be dining in a personal dining room off his office. It's not this stupid Victorian era places that still have this garbage. Although HUD was a latecomer too, so I don't know what they have it for. But I don't know. That lingered for a long time, apparently. So Pruitt's upset that they don't have a cafeteria he can mooch off of, and so he still goes to the White House. How far is it, by the way, EPA headquarters? I mean, it's not far. Obviously, they're both in D.C., but I'm curious. He doesn't walk, right? I'm sure that he takes a limo, armored at that, to go from one to the other. Let's say EPA headquarters. I think that's probably it. And then White House. All right, just checking. I'm curious about how close they are. If you go by car, looks like it is a 1.3 mile, 8-minute drive from EPA. Where's the starting point? There they are. Looks like they are on, I guess that's probably Pennsylvania Avenue, southeast, I guess is where they are. Would that be their address? I don't know. Or I guess they put them, so you would have to drive down 12th Street. There's 12 blocks from between where they are and the White House. So he's not going to walk that. So let's see. Go down 12th Street and turn on Constitution Avenue is the currently recommended thing. Down in front of the South Lawn and the Ellipse, and then turn up. What is this? Let's zoom in. I don't know. What is that? They're going to be like 15. Oh, I'm sorry. Between 12 blocks from the EPA to the Capitol. That's where they zero out. This is only 4 blocks. 12th Street to 16th Street, where the White House is. So down 12th Street, across Constitution Avenue, up 17th Street, and then turn into the White House entrance there. Okay. So, it will be a 4-block walk or 5 blocks to walk over to the west side of the White House. But yeah, he's not going to be wasting his time doing that, I'm sure. All right, so the White House didn't respond to a request for comment, and EPA declined also to comment. Pruitt's allies privately disputed that the warning about overuse of the mess was aimed squarely at him, but nobody contests that he is a frequent presence at the White House for lunch. Not that Donald Trump eats with him or anything. It's just they're in the same building, which I'm sure he tells everybody, yeah, I was at the White House for lunch today. Yeah, you went to the cafeteria. Pruitt has been known to complain about them having no cafeteria of their own to mooch off of. One source said EPA officials called the White House to explain that Pruitt doesn't have a place to eat at EPA and would like to continue to visit. They actually appealed the decision, I guess. Pruitt's EPA office is only a few blocks up Pennsylvania Avenue from the White House. I should have just read that. A billing statement from July 2017. Oh, okay. Now I'm interested. They actually do billing. Offered a glimpse into Pruitt's use of the mess, showing the EPA chief, or people linked to him, dined at the mess at least 9 times that month. That would be July of 2017, racking up a bill of $400. A relative bargain still in downtown Washington. Pruitt and his guests dined on dishes like, quote, cowboy, skirt steak, popcorn chicken, he is class, popcorn chicken and waffles, spinach, strawberry salad, and beer-braised brisket tacos. Yeehaw. See, if we had just had the taco truck on every corner, you could have done that, you dummy. Too bad. We'll be right back. Hi, it's me, David Waldman, your host for Kagro in the Morning, interrupting this little break to say thanks so much to all of you who are contributing supporters of Kagro in the Morning. Thousands of you are downloading the show each day, but fewer than 1 in 25 regular listeners are donating to help keep us on the air. For the money you'd spend on a single 3-minute iTunes song, we bring you 2 hours of great news and entertainment every day, 5 days a week. Patreon.com, Patreon.com makes it easy. You can find us there by searching Kagro X or David Waldman or Kagro in the Morning or even Daily Coast Radio in their search box, and you'll be right where you need to be to make easy, recurring monthly contributions to support our show. Once again, thanks so much for your support. All right, welcome back now to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Netroots Radio. I'm sort of sorting through comments here, and there are plenty of them that have to do with this story. But we'll finish up with the article and then get to these other things, and then some really good stuff. Boy, I wasn't expecting this one to be. Well, maybe I was. Maybe I foreshadowed it just unknowingly. All right, so let's see. Eating cowboy skirt steak, popcorn chicken, and waffles. While the food is considered to be top notch, the prices are a real bargain. Skirt steak runs just $10.25, while coriander beef kebabs were just $11.95 each. Wow, what a bargain. And a cheeseburger run just $6.35, according to his bill. A burger at another of Pruitt's haunts, French bistro Le Diplomate, runs $17. Records obtained through a Sierra Club Freedom of Information Act request also show Pruitt often sought to bring friends from Oklahoma to the White House mess. 5 friends from Tulsa: Charlie Polston, Carlin Maddox, David Maddox, Bob Wagner, and Jerry Dillon were invited for a September lunch there with him, though it didn't appear in Pruitt's detailed calendar obtained through FOIA. So that's how he entertains guests. Come to Washington, I'll take you to lunch. Ooh, we'll go to the private dining room of the EPA administrator. Nope, don't have one of those. I'm going to take you to the White House. Ooh, man, dining at the White House. President Trump. Well, we're going to the basement, and you're having hamburgers. But okay. And that's how he entertains. I will take you to subsidized lunch coming out of the Navy's pocket down in the basement. That lunch came just 2 weeks after Pruitt made a lunch date there with Bob Funk, the wealthy Oklahoma Republican with whom he bought a major stake in the minor league Oklahoma City Redhawks baseball team back in 2003. Used mattress and a baseball team, plus subsidized free lunches or whatever down at the White House mess. The chiseling never stops. Please have Mr. Funk arrive at the EPA building at 11:40 a.m. to ride, of course, with Administrator Pruitt to the White House. Lincoln Ferguson, a senior advisor for public affairs, wrote in an email there was no entry in Pruitt's calendar for the time when the lunch was to have taken place, because transparency. Calendars from Pruitt's senior aides show he has made frequent use of the space in the month following his February 2017 Senate confirmation. He dined there on February 27th, March 2nd, and met with Ivanka Trump, the president's daughter. Did you know that? And West Wing advisor. Did you know that? And he won the 2016 election. Did you know that? Huge margin. Did you know that? Robert Mueller III. He's the third, you know. He's special counsel investigating the Russian interference. All right. Not all of that is in there. Making fun of you, news people. So when did he eat there? He's confirmed in February. By February 27th, he's eaten in the White House. March 2nd, again. March 13th. Chief of Staff Ryan Jackson's calendar, that is his Chief of Staff, Pruitt's, I guess, also lists a lunch in The Mess on March 16th. Pruitt also hosted representatives from the Oklahoma Farm Bureau on March 29th. according to Jackson's calendar, and he returned for lunch with Mike Catanzaro, a senior White House energy aide, and several senior aides on April 7th. So, wow, let's see. It's confirmed in February. I don't know what day, but so he eats there February 27th, March 2nd, March 13th. His chief of staff goes on the 16th. He's back on March 29th, and then again on April 7th. Guy can't stay away. What does he do the other days? Pruitt and his guests also seem to have a sweet tooth, partaking of a dessert called... Oh my God. I give up. Forget it. Goodbye. The show's over, everybody. What does he eat for dessert? God damn it. I don't know when they invented this thing, but I hope it's I hope it's a Trump invention, but maybe not. Who knows? You work in the White House. You got to name a new chocolate dessert something. What are you going to name it? Chocolate Freedom. Oh my God. I mean, that's the funniest thing since sexual chocolate, quite frankly. Chocolate Freedom. He had on multiple occasions. What is it? Here is the answer. As Politico reported in January of 2017, Politico is on it. The dish, a molten cake, made with imported French chocolate. What? Boo, old Europe. That must be ordered at the beginning of lunch because of the baking time. So one of those fancy-ass things, like a freaking souffle, was also popular among Obama administration staffers on their way out the door. So yes, I don't know whether that was an invention during, that feels like a George W. Bush thing, like freedom fries. We'll call it chocolate freedom. It sounds delicious, and I'm sure lots of people enjoyed it. It's funny. Chocolate freedom. Chocolate freedom has garnered rave reviews online. Some of them are linked, and once prompted comedian Zach Galifianakis, is that how he pronounces the name? I think so. He's a famous guy and you hear it a lot, so it wasn't hard, to ask whether it was also the staff's nickname for former President Barack Obama. Everybody enjoys chocolate freedom for the humor value, really, more than even the deliciousness. Wow. Shoo. Also available to diners, boxes of red, white, and blue M&Ms featuring the presidential seal. Yes, those are the things you normally get on Air Force One. Do they now have presidential seal starbursts is the big question. Well, wow, that was entertaining and fun. But guess what? There's other stuff out there that is also entertaining and fun. Lots of good comments from all of you. We can catch up on. There's, I don't want to get to this one yet. We got to get to that in a second. I just got to switch gears on something for a second here. And for propriety's sake, I'll say, before I forget, but in reality, I did forget. Those of you who listened live to the show will not have heard this. This is special bonus footage, do we even call it footage, of something that I meant to do and forgot during the live show, but it's important. Hopefully I can get this into the podcast and then out the door quickly. Brian Monroe, our own friend, Canuck pundit, but whose real name is Brian Monroe, standing for election today in Canada, and I'm not usually in the habit necessarily of endorsing Green Party candidates. Is that what I'm doing? I can't endorse because I'm from America and it presumably violates some election law in Canada for me to do this. I'll tell you this. Our friend Brian Monroe is standing for election in the Ontario provincial elections taking place today. Is that right? Thursday, June 7th. What are you Canadians doing voting on Thursday? I don't know. But the point is this. He asked for a shout out. I wanted to give it to him during the live show. We'll give it to him now. The Ontario provincial elections are today, and he says, I would love it, and we'd like to do what he loves, if you would mention me and the Green Party of Ontario and my riding, that is the district that in Canadian politics, my riding of Hamilton East Stony Creek. So I don't know. I mentioned it. He's standing for election. That's always a good thing. Immediately, of course, there was pushback on Twitter from people who were angry that Greens might be stealing votes from somebody. It looks to me like the elections last time around. It wasn't like the Greens spoiled anything for anybody. And so I'm not that worried about it, but I'm primarily concerned with the fact that good friend of the show, Brian Monroe, is doing something. He's standing for election and he asked us to let everybody know that. Let's get this podcast out the door so people can download it early and get to the polls. I'm sorry I didn't get it in the live show, Brian, but you can see I'm sorry. I went back and added bonus footage. Let's call it footage, even though it's not film. And I made sure that we made some prominent mention of this. So that we can put it anywhere in the show. It could be the first item up for bids in today's show. I don't even know where we're going to fit it in. Doesn't matter. Brian, good luck. Thanks for standing for election in your hometown. We appreciate it. Glad to do it. Wish I had done it earlier. Let's see. We have the comment of... that's a funny name. D. Gordon Liddy, who tweets under the handle of ideologue, like ideal, instead of not ideologue, but lodge, like you might stay in. IDEOLODGE. Get it? Okay. Well, listening along, commenting La Diplomate, Chick-fil-A, the White House restaurant. Scott Pruitt might rival Trump in his obsession with eating. And I think so. This is really getting to be something. Michael Musson saying, I'm surprised Trump didn't come out and say, no one gets the second scoop of ice cream but me. That's true. And Rebecca Romans commenting that tell Pruitt to eat in his soundproof booth. Really, quite honestly true. Mighty OCD sending us this fun emergency situation, lunch emergency GIF. And Pruitt's desserts just broke me. Yeah, well, we're talking about that chocolate freedom thing. That really did break me. And a little GIF of skipping Homer Simpson on his way, I'm sure, to get chocolate freedom. But there's a bigger story looming out there, ladies and gentlemen, that both Rebecca and Kate Sherrill have sent to me, and this may be breaking the internet at the moment. Mika Brzezinski, who I guess now at this particular moment has no love left for the president, is going crazy. And what's this a link to? Contremptor.com has this story. Mika Brzezinski, is this today, I guess, maybe in response to, Rudy Giuliani. Here's your headline. Ready? Mika Brzezinski says Trump's biggest complaint, and he's got a lot of them. I don't like this. I don't like that. Trump's biggest complaint is he's not allowed to watch porn in the White House. I told you we were maybe foreshadowing the story, although I'm sure this was filed before we started outlining I was going to say the ins and outs, but really that's not what I meant, but I'll take it. The ins and outs of the situation in Lake Tahoe. Justin Baragona is the author behind this piece. I don't know where this comes from exactly, but lots of links here, so it sounds like it might be right. At a Tel Aviv conference this week, Trump lawyer and former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani derisively brushed off allegations made against President Donald Trump by adult film star Stormy Daniels by pointing to her career, comparing porn to prostitution. Giuliani said he can't respect someone who sells their body, and Daniels' adult film work undermines her credibility. Although, I mean, it actually kind of doesn't in this sense, right? I mean, this is why this is a problem. It goes back to the actual fundamental issue here is Donald Trump is the guy who thinks it needs to be hidden that they had sex. Not, for whatever reason. He doesn't want people to think he does this. I don't know why. It's his reputation. And that's a problem. He gets himself in trouble paying people hush money because he needs to keep it quiet because he's afraid he can be either undermined or even blackmailed with the information. Whereas, ironically enough, someone like Stormy Daniels can't be. Like, oh, I heard you had sex with the president. Well, as embarrassing as that is, it is true, and I don't mind admitting that. I think everybody knows that that's just kind of the way I approach sex. You might have noticed I'm in the porn industry, and having sex casually doesn't bother me very much. And I don't know whether it bothers you, but I don't care. And I can't be blackmailed, therefore, with the fact that I had sex with an old wrinkled bag like Donald Trump. I'm willing to admit it. You can't blackmail me. The shoe is on the other foot here. Anyway, on top of that, America's mayor mocked Daniels' physical appearance in an effort to prove Trump wouldn't have slept with her, which is pretty dumb, quite honestly. I mean, A, he did, and B, her physical appearance was Y, and of course, it was 12 years ago, and, Rudy Giuliani himself is a shriveled vampire and never looked good even at his best. Anyway, as Giuliani doubled down on his comments Thursday morning, Morning Joe co-host Mika Brzezinski took to the air to fire back. I wouldn't even have thought to go to this as a source, but guess what? Following her emotional Morning Joe statement, in which she called Giuliani a misogynistic fool, Brzezinski appeared on Stephanie Ruhle's program, and continued her takedown of Rudy G. She also had a bit of a scoop on Trump. She didn't even do it on the Morning Joe air. She went on with Stephanie Ruhle, who, again, makes our news. This is like 3 times in the space of a week and a half. Maybe even a week. On the Rudy story, a couple of things, Brzezinski said. First of all, the hypocrisy is astounding. Yes, that's absolutely true. Because I know someone who spoke to Donald Trump recently about life in the White House, and Donald Trump's biggest complaint was that he's not allowed to watch porn in the White House. That is pretty amazing. And, look at that. It automatically linked the word watch, like thinking that that must mean that there's a video here, and we'll put the link in. I don't know where it goes. I don't think it's to watching porn, but we can't do that now. We're busy. He continued while Ruhle completely cracked up. So there you go. There's a little bit of news for you. He's upset he can't watch porn in the White House. After revealing that bit of hypocrisy from the president as his lawyer attacks Daniels for being in adult films, Brzezinski would go on to tear into Giuliani, calling him a pig several times. So that's pretty good. That's the way I'd like to spend my morning. Giuliani's a pig. Giuliani's a pig. Giuliani's a pig. Did I do it as many times? I don't know. You tell me how many times she did it, and I'll beat it. I swear. I'll spend all day on it if you let me. That sounds like it has the ring of truth to it. Although I don't know why you wouldn't be allowed to watch porn in the White House. I guess that has sort of a ring of truth to it too, in the sense of like, they wouldn't want you to, but one, who checks, and two, why not? And three, I wouldn't, because I'd be like, I'm the president, I'm busy, I should be doing something else. Even if I'm not the president, like if I just work there, like, well, now I'm at work, I can't be watching porn at work. That's not going to work. That might not stop people elsewhere in the White House. A lot of these guys have no scruples, maybe to that level even. I don't know. I mean, look, you tell me what's going on. One guy who worked there filled his hot tub with acid before he moved out of a house. That guy could have been watching porn anywhere. But like, I don't know. Is it, when you say not allowed, like, does it work? Is it effective? Is there or is it like, I don't know where porn comes from? At my house, it's on the telly. You just press the right channel and you get the porno channels that I pay for, or the pay-per-view. I know how to use that. The White House cable TV doesn't have the porn, and that I could see, that they'd be like, yeah, don't give us the porn package at the White House, because who freaking wants that? And we might have to, people might be able to, and it might be, this is the root of it, they can FOIA the television bills, and if the cable bill or the DirecTV bill is full of pay-per-view porn, people are going to find out about it and assume it's the president and not people at their desks or whatever. I don't know. First the Gorilla Channel disappears, now the porn is gone. I had quit. This is stupid. But I mean, like for instance, if you happen to have porn DVDs and a DVD player, when they say the president is allowed to watch porn, is it, do the cops break the door down if the porn alarm goes off? I don't know. I'm not 100% sure how anybody knows that, but or maybe it also sounds like something that Trump could have said to somebody as a joke, but we take seriously. How's life in the White House treating you, Donald? It's great. I love it. It's great to be president. You can have potato chips or ice cream, whatever you want. The bad part, you can't watch porn. And, it may be that you can, and he just likes saying it. He thought that was a funny joke. I don't know. But in the meantime, we now have a new news cycle. We're going to have to sort this out and find out. But imagine if you can't. I could literally shoot James Comey and then pardon myself. But I can't, A, get my tax returns out of the IRS because I'm under audit, and I can't do anything about that. And B, can't watch porn in the White House. These are the very strange limitations on the presidency, if you believe it. I'm not saying it's true, but it's probably true. Anyway, or someone probably told him that. Or you really shouldn't be watching porn, Mr. President. You should be focusing on North Korea like you tweeted you were going to do last week. All right, there are a million more things. This was really not where I expected to be. But clearly we're not going to get to any of those things, right? Let's see. New reports about Eagles Gate. I guess the only new news here is that there were also Republican National Committee staffers invited by memo to fill that place in. So another fake crowd, just as they paid actors $50 to show up at the Trump announcement that he was going to run for president. They had to fill in this thing, and that's why everybody was in suits. So they're reporting that now. Now it's a subject of interest in Philadelphia, of course. So Philly.com reporting on that situation. Let's see. Other fun things to take a look at. How about this? Since we were worried about being killed in a attack from North Korea or global thermonuclear war from whatever source, let's reassure ourselves that everything's going to be okay in this ridiculous summit, apparently still scheduled for next week, I think, and they're going to a luxury hotel, the very one that everybody thought they would be going to. By the way, did we mention the story somewhere along the line that there's like no mechanism by which communist, maybe it has not necessarily to do with their communism, but whatever, communist North Korea either can't afford to or has no mechanism by which to pay the hotel bill, which, sounds like the sort of logistical thing nightmare that might actually be true because dumbness prevails everywhere. We don't have any mechanism for sending the leader of, very secretive and cloistered North Korean leader to a luxury hotel to hang out with a supposed billionaire to negotiate away the future of North Korea or whatever. Even if he wins, like what mechanism would North Korea have for cutting checks to luxury hotels? I could see that being a problem. Anyway, perhaps more important than that, the report, also in Politico, headlined, Trump and Bolton, the national security advisor, Trump and Bolton spurn top-level North Korea planning. In other words, the summit's next week, and Trump isn't interested in learning anything about what to do. Do not congratulate, do not do this, do not do that. He doesn't want to know. He doesn't want to be told. And Bolton's not interested in telling him, nor is Bolton interested in getting briefings from people who are subject matter experts so that he can advise the president. He thinks he knows everything there is to know about North Korea and everything else, and there isn't anything anybody could tell him. After 2 months on the job, the subheader says, Trump's new national security advisor has not called a single top-level National Security Council meeting on North Korea. Period. The end. Eliana Johnson reporting this one. And again, I'll just give you the flavor of the story and move on. National Security Advisor John Bolton has yet to convene a cabinet-level meeting to discuss President Donald Trump's upcoming summit on North Korea next week. A striking break, let's say, from past practice that suggests the Trump White House is largely improvising its approach to the unprecedented nuclear talks. And quite frankly, he might as well, because nothing's going to happen there anyway. But I guess the big danger is, you don't know with Donald Trump. He may agree to something totally stupid or something that totally undermines our national security, thinking he's, he said he wanted this. You know what? He told me, he said, I'm going to ask you for something that doesn't even have any cost. Doesn't even have any cost. He asked me for a bunch of letters and numbers. You know what? I really love America's English alphabet and numerical system. It's not like the jumbly gobbledygook that we have here in Korea, is how Donald Trump would, of course, describe it. But no, he used those terms with me. He said, you know what, Donald? I love Korea. I love the Korean people, but the writing is a mess. I don't understand it. And look at it. It's a mess. Figure it out if you can. I'm born here. I don't understand it. Want to use some of your letters and numbers. Specifically, I was told that I couldn't learn it all at once, and that I might perhaps learn it better in, say, sets of, 10. Is there a combination of numbers and letters that you might have, let's say, in that suitcase over there with you, that I could use to learn English and English numbers and letters? Could you open it up and see? Because I was told that there were some very helpful flashcards, for instance, that I could, and open up the nuclear football. Here's the launch codes. Go have fun. He's just that dumb, and so you don't want that to happen. But more to the point, of course, is like, if they say, well, we want a concession, you got to remove XYZ defensive system in South Korea. And if you are just feeling generous and say, yes, that's a huge problem, right? You don't want to do that. But forget it. John Bolton is going to go and he's going to whisper in his ear, and nobody knows what John Bolton's going to tell him because they don't want to hear it from anybody else either. I find that interesting, worrisome. Wanted to put it on the record there. And how shall we finish up today? How about then with a quick look through what I told you was at least one of the more entertaining stories today, the story from Josh Dawsey of the private FEMA briefing, semi-private. He was supposed to be meeting with FEMA people, and he brought Melania, or maybe the fake Melania anyway, with him over to FEMA to get a briefing supposedly on the upcoming hurricane season. And let's not have another Puerto Rico is what the unstated goal probably really was. But it doesn't matter. It didn't matter that it was private. Trump decided to hold forth for the cameras for some extended period of time, and none of it was about hurricanes. So, what is Josh reporting that's so hilarious? The meeting was supposed to be about hurricane preparedness. As disaster officials, and they are disasters, gathered at FEMA headquarters days after the start of the 2018 season. But President Trump had a lot of other things, a lot else on his mind, turning the closed-door discussion into soliloquies on his prowess in negotiating airplane deals, his popularity, the effectiveness of his political endorsements, the Republican Party's fortunes, the vagaries of Defense Department purchasing guidelines, his dislike of magnetized launch equipment on aircraft carriers, his unending love of coal, and his breezy optimism about his planned Singapore summit with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. It's an interesting journey. It's called the land of the unknown. It is not called that. Who knows? Maybe we'll make a deal, maybe not. As I say to everybody, are you going to make a deal? Trump said, according to audio of the FEMA meeting obtained by the Washington Post. Maybe and maybe not. Who knows? You're supposed to know, but okay. The president's 40-minute briefing session behind closed doors came after he spoke to cameras for about 15 minutes. He briefly referred to Puerto Rico, where health authorities now estimate there were about 1,400 additional deaths following Hurricane Maria compared to the same period the previous year. The Trump administration was roundly criticized for its performance, and hundreds of thousands in the U.S. territory remain without electricity. I mean, this very matter-of-factly debunks everything he does, but very rarely do they say, well, that's a lie, and they don't do it here either. Trump did not mention Puerto Rico's victims, but thanked Florida Governor Rick Scott for helping, and noted that the power company in Puerto Rico was in bankruptcy prior to the hurricane. He said recovery was a tough job. He also mentioned Puerto Rico in passing once with the cameras rolling. There has never been a season like the last 12 or 13 months, he said, of the hurricane season. I've never seen anything like it. I've never paid attention before, basically. Hurricane briefings usually give politicians a chance to look decisive, but instead he said maybe, maybe not, I don't know, who knows. And Trump bragged to friends last fall that his administration had handled a slew of hurricanes quite well. Some of them we did a good job with. Many of Trump's thoughts Thursday, however, did not relate to hurricanes. When Deputy Defense Secretary Patrick Shanahan began speaking, Trump, within 10 seconds, moved the conversation to negotiating airplane prices. He said the government was getting ripped off on ships and planes because the ordering process for the military is so bad. It's not a competitive bid. We saved $1.6 billion on Air Force One, he said. Can you believe it? I got involved in the negotiations. The press refuses to report that, but that's okay. People were really surprised. By the way, military officials have not been able to explain where Trump got such a figure. A Defense Department official told Bloomberg News this year that the department has no information to back up that claim. I got involved with Boeing and was able to cut down the F-18 by millions of dollars, Trump added. This is, by the way, he interrupts the Deputy Secretary of Defense. Well, we're here to talk about what the military does about hurricanes. Who cares? You know what? You guys, I want to save money. We pay too much for planes. Too much. He then complained that the military was too frequently buying new and, in his view, unnecessary equipment, citing aircraft technology as an example. Part of it is they want to have all new. Instead of having, they should buy like used mattresses, used aircraft carriers, right? Instead of having the system that throws the aircraft off the ship, which was always steam, throws the aircraft off the ship. That's his description of the launching mechanism. You remember he did this before. He was mad that they don't have steam catapults anymore. They use magnetic ones, the magnetic ones being superior. But I like the steam, okay? They spend hundreds of millions of dollars. I'm hearing not great things about it. It's frankly ridiculous. The room did not respond to his assessment. Shanahan said he would brief Trump and Kelly on changes to the guidelines soon and would begin bringing them receipts. This is how much I paid for the airplane, sir. Trump said he appreciated that. A few minutes later, he analyzed election results in California, noting that he endorsed the Republican gubernatorial candidate who made it onto the November ballot. Trump is highly unpopular in California, according to public and White House polls, on under 40% approval rating there. But he attacked Gavin Newsom anyway, and says of Republican John Cox, I endorsed him. He really has been a very good candidate. I watched him last night. We won every seat that I endorsed. And, that might, I don't know whether that's even really true, but he picked and chose. The ones we didn't give, they didn't do too well, as you probably know. Trump touted generic polls that showed Republicans closing the gap in midterm elections before dismissing the idea of generic polls. And he said the Republican Party was down 17 points 2 months ago in one unnamed poll. Now, he said that's changing. I don't know if it means anything. I've never heard of a generic poll because he's such a politician. I'm not sure I believe in a generic poll, but basically he says we used to be down 17 points. Now we're up in them, and so that's awesome. And he went on and went on and on and on, taking credit for economic successes of individual companies, for Apple's decision to build a new campus, for Foxconn, for building in Wisconsin, et cetera, et cetera. It was a total S show and a mess, as usual, but very entertaining one. Not as entertaining as finding out that his big complaint is he can't watch porn, but hey, and not as entertaining as chocolate freedom, because really, honestly, nothing is. But what else might be entertaining to you nonetheless for the rest of the day? Well, how about the West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy? Coming up next right here on Netroots Radio. And Justice Putnam has a collection of unusual stories himself, including Betsy DeVos studies school safety but leaves the guns out of it on purpose. Let's see, the EPA spokesman called a reporter a piece of trash for doing her job. That's nice. And the health secretary lied to Congress by insisting all asylum seekers aren't being separated from their kids. And Louisiana lawmakers are pushing bills that benefit their own businesses, and it's perfectly
Daily
legal
Codes
at
Radio
that.
On netrootsradio.com. You have been listening to the Kagro in the Morning Show
with David Waldman.
Well, let's see what else has he got. Even though white supremacist candidates' hopes were trampled in Tuesday's primary races, they vow to continue their campaigns of hate. And Trump's antipathy toward the NFL is not about his fight over patriotism, but a decades-long grudge over being rejected from joining the Big Boys Club. All of that next.